Kitchen Nightmares has seen more than its fair share of bad chefs. But this one right here was downright evil. See, when Chef Ramsay arrived at the Seascape Inn managed by Irene and her son Peter, he didn't know that it was once popular back in the 60s. But times had changed and now Peter was facing a big money problem, needing over $1 million to stay afloat.
It's the Titanic. It was a luxury liner, and it's sinking.
The inn, once buzzing with guests, now struggled to keep its doors open, and Ramsay learned of Peter's plight and wanted to help. But first, Chef Ramsay wanted to get to the bottom of something very concerning.
We've had complaints about that sewage smell.
In Chef Ramsay's eyes, the foul stench wasn't the only thing that assaulted his senses on arrival. The horrid state of the kitchen spoke volumes about the man manning the kitchen, Chef Doug.
So dirty. God, when was that cleaned?
With a disdainful attitude, and dishes reflecting that much and more, the chaos unfolded before Chef Ramsay like a living nightmare.
When I served him the salmon, he did have something to say about the pesto sauce. It was tainted, so to speak.
The crab cakes, once a specialty at the restaurant, crumbled under the weight of neglect.
It's not a crab cake. It's a cake.
While the lobster ravioli was worse than yesterday's forgotten meal.
Strange taste inside. They're definitely not fresh.
I mean, the food was so horrible that Chef Ramsay started to worry about his own safety. However, despite Chef Ramsay's burning desire to address the root of the issue, Chef Doug was reluctant to change.
I stay busy all day from 11 o'clock when I walk in the door until 5:36 when we get tables.
His 38 years of experience in the industry was overshadowed by his nature for hurling insults. In fact, even the homemade Greek cookies more than failed to sweeten the deal. Chef Ramsay nearly choked on the confection that had more sugar than substance. As the dinner service unfolded, it became abundantly clear that Chef Doug was the sole reason behind the restaurant's downfall. The kitchen and the service had turned into a disaster thanks to his lackluster leadership.
It stinks. It's dried parsley.
As chaos reigned, it was Peter who stepped up to clean up the mess left in the wake of Doug's negligence. But Chef Ramsay wasn't content to leave things there. The blatant disregard for cleanliness and quality left him on the brink of throwing up. But guess what? When pressed for accountability, Doug deflected everything. This left the famous chef stunned with the arrogance this guy was capable of showing. But here's the craziest thing ever.
You don't want to taste? No, I'm good.
The audacity. I mean, the dude flat out refused to taste Chef Ramsay's dish. And here I am wondering what this Doug character was even made of. Despite Ramsay's tireless efforts to salvage the situation, Doug was beyond repair.
Doug, one more chance. You sure you don't want to taste that? Positive.
However, Peter, the owner, emerged as a beacon of hope, albeit a timid one. I mean, the dude was legit scared of his own staff. But the famous chef reminded him of his position at the restaurant.
Get a grip and be the boss. There's one thing that I need you to carry out for me.
If he truly wanted to turn things over for the better, it would have to first start with himself. Peter finally found the courage to take action in the interest of the restaurant's survival. And the decision that he made was to stand up to his fears.
Are we done here for good, or?
However, the damage was already done. Seascape Inn had to close its doors for good, and Chef Ramsay couldn't emphasize enough on the importance of clarity in the roles within an establishment. While Peter's actions were commendable, Doug's arrogance was enough to drag the business into the mud. Meanwhile, here comes another restaurant where the two most important people to its functioning couldn't get along with each other. Let's head straight into the disastrous kitchen that was Casaroma, where chaos was the hottest selling dish on the menu. Because, believe me, nobody was ordering anything else. Meet Eric, the head chef whose carefree attitude had led the restaurant into a downward spiral. When the famous chef witnessed the tension between the two chefs being Eric and Drew, he couldn't figure out how they made it this far.
Damn it, am I the only one that fucking works here?
Eric's excuse of having a bad day didn't sit well with Chef Ramsay. I mean, why should the customer pay the price for his incompetence? When Eric stormed out to catch a break, Nyla, the owner, was left with one choice: to either shut down the restaurant or send him packing. And I think you have a fair idea of what she went with.
I just can't do it. I know, but I can't do it.
But even as Eric left, what he left behind was shocking.
Whoa. Fucking hell.
From moldy food to meat that was so far gone that even Chef Ramsay couldn't identify it, it was a wake-up call for everyone involved.
That's just over 3 months old. Jesus Christ almighty.
The staff were asked to clean up under Drew's leadership, and thankfully, with Drew at the helm, Casaroma geared up to celebrate its 50th year, marking a turnaround from the depths of Eric's mismanagement. Up next, it's time for possibly one of the wildest encounters Chef Ramsay has ever had on Kitchen Nightmares.
If I'm all that, you're my twin.
Yep, I'm talking about the infamous chef from Street Beastro. I'm sure you guys already know what's about to happen, but for those of you out of the loop, let me get you up to speed. Now, this dude wasn't just mean to Chef Ramsay. His tyrannical management style and callous treatment towards both employees and customers makes him the most controversial owner the show has ever seen, bar none.
I'm eating right now?
I didn't know. You came out with it before.
Excuse me.
Nagy's reign of terror was marked by a litany of abuse and scandals. I mean, who in the world other than this guy treats their staff like this?
The way you treat me is disrespectful, crude.
Then you need to find another place to work.
Meanwhile, his kitchen was a battleground where insults were hurled around left, right, and center.
Don't come around starting blah, 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 blah.
Now, if you're looking for the perfect definition of a toxic environment, then look no further than this dumpster fire of a place. He instilled fear in his staff through verbal abuse, berating them for even the slightest mistakes, and subjecting them through impossible demands and grueling work hours. It's not surprising why most employees want to get out from under his thumb. But Nagy's cruelty wasn't confined to his kitchen. It spilled over into the dining room, where customers were subjected to his illogical whims and disdainful treatment. I mean, when it came to this dude, his arrogance knew no bounds. He dismissed any criticism thrown his way and proclaimed himself to be the best.
I've never had anybody in my career critique my items that told me every one of them was a piece of shit and he had to go down the street to eat.
Wow.
Behind the scenes, Nagy's misdeeds extended far beyond mere rudeness and hostility. For someone who seemed to be so hands-on, the kitchen was screaming another story. There was an absolute lack of cleanliness and proper food handling practices.
Half frozen, blood stains.
This disregard for basic hygiene jeopardized the health and safety of the customers. And guess what this made Nagy? A danger to public health, to say the very least. Nagy's sour attitude became a hot topic for discussion as soon as the episode was released. Instead of seizing the opportunity for redemption, Nagy doubled down on his defiance and sealed his reputation as the villain that nobody asked for. I mean, what in the world was this?
I'm not making up stories.
That's how deluded you are.
No, I'm not deluded.
But guess what? There was one particular aspect that nobody could beat Nagy at, the art of manipulation. The dude was accused of withholding wages and manipulating expenses to provide for himself, but not for his staff.
I think Joe is at fault for the lack of business.
In the end, Nagy's downfall was as swift as it was inevitable. However, turns out, after all these years, the dude still holds a grudge against Chef Ramsay. I mean, it's not hard to understand why. After all, Chef Ramsay literally dressed him down on national television.
You want me to get rid of it right fucking now and that's I would. Then we don't have it.
Oh, here we go.
I mean, let's not forget that Nagy made some huge claims of being trained under the best European chefs, which, let me remind you, was bullshit. But here comes a French chef. Yup, actually a legit French chef this time, who had the skill and talent, but he also had an ego big enough to consume him whole. Meet Michael Bardavid, the man who gave his staff, his customers, and Gordon Ramsay a really hard time.
Is everything perfect? Even in your kitchen? I don't think so.
It's fucking clean.
See, back in the day, Michael's restaurant, The Secret Garden, was quite the hotspot. But after years of neglect, it had turned into a cesspool of moldy and maggot-infested produce. Despite Chef Ramsay's earnest attempts at intervention, Michael's ego seemed to eclipse all reason. But when the famous chef confronted him about the plight of his walk-in refrigerator, the man was at a loss for words.
Underneath here, the amount of mold that's growing. Look.
Well, not really. The dude had the audacity to defend himself in the face of all that bloody, gooey mess.
I work for Thomas Keller. I know how the kitchen goes.
How long ago?
I work for Guy
Listen,
Clausen.
hey,
let me give
Thomas Keller doesn't run a kitchen like this.
I mean, the mere suggestion of criticism sent Michael into a frenzy. The dude couldn't stop blurting out excuses.
The restaurant is not doing that bad, okay? I make decent money.
The famous chef couldn't help but put a stop to menace. And the best way to do that was to shut the restaurant down. So, did Michael learn from his mistakes and pick up where Chef Ramsay left off? Of course not. The dude was back to his old ways, and the next thing you know, the Secret Garden was history. But here comes a chef that was so full of himself that he used the kitchen like his own personal playground. Well, it's safe to say that the dynamics at Leelas was way more messed up than you'd think from the outside looking in. Right from an owner who had no clue what to do, to a waitress who kept locking horns with the chef, the restaurant was deemed to fail. But when it came down to the food, it was worse. Boy, was it worse. First up, it was time for the tomato basil soup. But guess what? Instead of a hearty homemade delight, Chef Ramsay was served a catastrophe straight out of a can. It obviously lacked anywhere near the freshness and flavor that he expected, leaving a bad taste in his mouth before he even got started.
It tastes like it's canned.
Yeah.
So it says homemade soup on the menu, and it's brought in.
Next on the chopping block were the chicken nachos. Chef Ramsay took one bite and immediately detected something really fishy.
Fresh nachos or are they bought in?
The chef makes them fresh in the morning.
I don't think they were made fresh this morning, my darling.
The tortilla chips were stale, plain and simple. As for the lamb with the chocolate mint sauce, well, strange flavor combinations aside, Chef Ramsay couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the tiny portion sitting on his plate.
Where's the lamb?
And to add insult to injury, it was clear that the lamb had been shacking it up in the freezer for months before it even hit his plate.
The lamb frozen.
Yes.
Oh, the lamb is frozen.
Yes.
But wait, there's more. When the famous chef Sweet Tooth led him to order the brownie a la mode, he was shocked to discover that it had already been devoured by none other than Buzzard. Yeah, this guy was hired to help out in the kitchen, but instead helped himself to some food. Anyway, coming back to the bad blood between the staff, Ricky and Tabitha's feud would often reach a boiling point. They would often blame each other for the restaurant's woes.
You should know that already.
I like to know.
No, we don't got now.
But the famous chef could read between the lines. He knew who the root of the problem was and didn't hesitate to step in and address the elephant in the room.
I thought it was a pile of
But what was Ricky's response? His excuse that food had to be frozen to preserve it didn't hold water with Chef Ramsay. However, wait, that's not all. Wait till you see what the walk-in fridge revealed.
This meat is virtually rotting, dried, warm, congealed blood.
From old frozen food stacked to the ceiling to the smell that could knock out a rhinoceros, it was clear that the kitchen needed a serious cleanup. And the famous chef wasted no time in putting the staff to work.
We gotta clean. Ricky, I want the fridge walls scrubbed, the floor done.
But the drama didn't end there. As the dinner service kicked off, tempers flared once again between Ricky and Tabitha.
How come you didn't tell me that when you seen the ticket?
Because I didn't see the ticket.
Some staff members even decided to call it quits early, leaving Chef Ramsay fuming. And just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, he saw Buzzard sneaking off with some wine and food.
Did you ask anyone for it? No.
You need to go talk to her and let her know. I have no problem with that.
Okay, I'll come with you.
Chef Ramsay was beyond pissed. He decided to drag Buzzard back to Leelas and report the incident to Leela herself. It was clear that the restaurant was in dire need of some serious intervention.
Here we are, with a restaurant that's financially screwed, and you're just helping yourself to wine and a 4-course dinner.
The first step to get things in order was to gather the staff for a heart-to-heart. But guess what? It was Ricky who bore the brunt of his wrath.
You're making powdered mashed potato.
You talk about the mashed potatoes. I didn't hear not one person complain about them tonight. Did you?
In Gordon's eyes, Ricky was no chef. He was a fraud masquerading as a culinary expert. And if Leelas had any hope of turning things around, it would have to start with getting the dirt out of the kitchen. Starting with Ricky. And now for the last pick of the day, and believe me, this one was quite a handful. Come on, there's no way we can talk about the most evil chefs without Chapman making the list.
I was the one that would put the crabs in the pot.
But hey, this dude wasn't just a bad chef, he was an even worse owner.
Chappie is extremely hard-headed.
There's nothing wrong with my food.
Yeah, both came back.
That's right, our old chap right here was as ignorant as one could be. So here's one thing, the business was tanking. That's a baseline requirement to get on the show, but let me show you how bad things really were. People were sending back food faster than the dishes hit the table, but, well, Chappie decided to blame everything but himself.
I think people in Nashville have a problem with New Orleans cuisine. They hate it all. Oh well, these people don't know.
Things had gotten to such a point that even his wife was done with his antics.
For Chappie's to be saved, I think we need Chappie to change.
Why waste my time?
Now, the famous chef had done his homework. He had a fair idea of what he was in for, but Chappie decided to throw a curveball.
Yeah, he's gonna be right out, he told me.
Yup, he decided to play things his way. I mean, can you believe it that he kept Chef Ramsay waiting on purpose? It's not even like he was busy in the kitchen. The dude just wanted to show Ramsay he was the boss. But the famous chef soon got a whiff of his attitude as soon as Chappie walked out to meet him.
You know, we don't do traditional Nashville food, burgers and pulled pork and chicken wings. We don't do that.
There he goes again, trying to paint his customers as the bad guys only because they didn't like his food. I mean, Chappie didn't even realize how full of crap he was.
I think my food is the best New Orleans cuisine in Nashville, hands down.
Either way, Chef Ramsay soon understood what the reason behind the restaurant's failure was.
We have like 10 different specials.
What?
As well as 5 different appetizers.
And don't even get me started on the menu. It was less of a menu and more of a book. So, like, why not just expand the menu? But that's not even the worst part.
So for lunch menu, the crawfish etouffee is $8.95. How much is it for dinner on the special?
$29.95.
I mean, wait till you see the greatest scam in the food business.
So it jumps to $20. And what changes?
Unbelievable. Imagine doubling the price and serving the same damn fish. But hey, was the food at least worth the price?
It's bland.
Yeah, I don't think so. As for the gumbo, you have to see Chef Ramsay's reaction yourselves.
It looks like Chappie took a crappie in my gumbo.
The fact that someone could actually mistake it for literal crap made it all the more hilarious. Now, I would have steered clear of tasting it, but the famous chef wanted to see just how bad it gets. And, well, I'm sure he regretted his decision right after.
That is disgusting.
Clearly, Chappie's food was crappy, but the dude didn't take the news very well.
Chef Ramsay's a dumbass. You know, if there's something that I think is absolutely wrong, he doesn't know what he's talking about, I'm gonna tell him. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, he just couldn't keep his mouth shut. But when the famous chef confronted him, the dude lost his voice.
You're a joke. Food was disgusting.
Everything was off?
Everything.
Man was tongue-tied the entire time.
Chappie is not very happy. You're done.
Oh boy, do I feel embarrassed for him. And just you wait till you see the horror Chef Ramsay stumbled upon in the kitchen.
We blacken everything in the same pan, yes.
What happens if the customer was a pescatarian?
A pescatarian?
Oh no, that wasn't all.
Yeah, they only eat fish, and they don't expect to eat their fish with meat juices.
I've never heard of one.
Chappie was a chef, wasn't he? Where had the passion gone? I mean, just look at what they found in the pantry.
How old is that?
Raw beef and cooked beef.
And somehow, Chappie thought that it was his customers who didn't know how to relish his food, while this was lurking in the dark shadows.
Absolutely stinking. Oh my God.
And the fridge? Oh man. This little kitchen tour is getting worse by the minute.
I have never seen that, ever. And I want to know, what the hell are you doing?
How clueless was this guy really? Thanks to Chef Ramsay's timely intervention, the staff gathered the courage to confront their boss.
You're condescending, you're rude, and you're abusive.
And, well, it was their time to vent.
You don't give a about us as a team out here. That you think we're all against you.
Chappie had finally realized how wrong he had been, or at least that's what everyone hoped for.
It does get tough. And if I was negative to you of a personal event, I apologize. It wasn't meant to hurt.
Although Chappie did apologize to everyone and promised to change his ways, he did the exact opposite during the relaunch.
It's not my style. But I was just kind of grin, bear it, move on.
At this point, Ramsay had to start his rescue mission all the way from square one. So, who do you think was the most evil chef of them all? Make sure to let me know in the comments section down below. And hey, don't forget to check out my social media pages, like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications if you're hungry for more. Also, don't forget to check out this next video right here. It's gonna put Abby's outburst to shame.